Another break from politics this week to have a look at another great Australian pastime, sport, and its close companion, racism. The weekend before last, an Indigenous footballer, the Sydney Swans' Adam Goodes, was abused by a Collingwood fan who called him an ape. Goodes, who's copped a fair bit in his long career, decided this was a racist insult, and he took it further. The Collingwood fan turned out to be a 13-year-old girl who said, and quite believably, that she did not intend this to be a racist insult. She thought it was just a general insult, the sort that Australians normally hurl at the opposition team. And Goodes accepted an apology, the girl was sent for counselling, and the president of the Collingwood club, Eddie McGuire, apologised on behalf of his club. So far, so good. But then, next morning, inexplicably, Eddie McGuire went on commercial radio and was heard to suggest that perhaps Adam Goodes might like to be involved in promoting the musical King Kong. Everyone was naturally stunned. McGuire tried to bluster his way out of it, said it was just a slip of the tongue. Certainly he'd had a thought and it just slipped out in the form of words. So okay, Eddie McGuire had a thought. It was the sort of thought which people of his generation often get. Let's face it, he's 48 years old, and it's hard to find an Australian who was born before 1970 who wasn't infected by the sort of casual endemic racism which pervaded Australian society until then, and indeed thereafter. I mean, I get those sort of thoughts myself, and I'm more than 20 years older than Eddie McGuire. But the point is that I know they're wrong, I know they're irrational, I know they're stupid, and I make sure they don't slip out. I make sure I don't give them voice. That's just what's called, or used to be called, common decency, common politeness. Now it's derided by the neocons as political correctness, a terrible crime, suppressing freedom of speech, not letting people say whatever they want, no matter how vicious or hurtful it may be. Well, hang on a minute. There are very few absolutes in human society, but here's one. Cruelty is always and everywhere wrong, and racism is a form of cruelty. So, whenever we recognise racism, everywhere and when we recognise racism, it must be condemned, it must be dealt with in the strongest possible terms. Now, we're probably not going to get rid of it altogether. It'll take another generation before Australia becomes race blind in the way, hopefully, our 13-year-old Collingwood fan was. But we can at least deal with it where we see it, and the publicity, the huge amount of publicity the Eddie McGuire affair got, does suggest that we are making progress. That's the good news. I'm Mungo McCallum.